We are in Proverbs chapter 14, beginning in verse 23. Last week, we ended on verse 22, verse 22. Do they not go astray who devise evil, but mercy and truth belong to those who devise good? Yeah, so do they go astray who devise evil? Well, that's what they're devising. That's what they're doing. What did you expect from someone who's devising evil? They are going to go astray. And mercy and truth belong to those who devise good. And of course, as Jesus states in Matthew chapter 7, 15 through 20, concerning that of trees and fruit. A good tree bears good fruit, a bad tree bears bad fruit. You can't see, if suddenly a tree is bearing bad fruit, what does it mean about the tree? It's become a bad tree. All right, and if suddenly a bad tree is producing good fruit, then now you know that's a good tree. It has in fact changed. Of course, he wasn't talking about trees per se. He's talking about people. And you can expect this, that someone who's devising evil, what else are they going to be doing? This is what they're thinking about. This is what their heart is. This is where their mind is. What they're going to. Now, we go to verse 23, just as our start here. In all labor there is profit, but idle chatter leads to poverty. And so this goes back to the sloth, the sluggard, the lazy man. That's what this goes to. So the first part of this is in all labor there is profit. So it is getting something done. Getting to the work and getting it done. Whatever it took, however many hours, days, or years it took, it's done. It is being done. But you have the flip side of that. Idle chatter leads only to poverty. Well, that would be just talking about, it's like this. If you're talking about work, you're not doing the work. If you're planning on doing the work, well, accomplish the plan. Do it. Do it. This has got to be more than just talk and dreaming and wishes and boasts of what might be, or boasts of what has yet to be, and of what's going to happen one day. And anyone can make grandiose plans. And I remember as a kid of the one kid or other who was very good at doing that. They would speak of grandiose things that a kid couldn't possibly do. But it's easy. It's easy to just kind of have your imagination go and come up with all these plans. But are you going to do it? All right? And is it even possible for you to do? But the fact is, all you're doing is just talking. That's it. There's nothing more than that. It goes no further than that. And anybody can do that. Anyone can, as we say, talk a good game. Anyone can speak of ideals and ideal things. Anybody can do that. Politicians are very good at that. Okay, this is what you say. Who's going to disagree with it? But what are you going to do? All right, there has to be something defined here. How are you going to get there? Because it may be you can't get there. Or it could be that your plan on getting there doesn't really get you there. Or your plan may be incredibly flawed, or you don't even have a plan. You just saying all these grandiose, wonderful things, and it leads to absolutely nothing. But there is labor in profit. Doing it, putting in as they say, the sweat equity, putting in what has to be done. And once again, this goes right back to the lazy man, and that lazy man with great plans is just someone who talks about it. That's it. Just that's all there is. And now every one of us, and just want to make a clarification, every one of us can make plans and then come to a conclusion, I don't really want to do that, or come to a conclusion of that was a bad idea, or a conclusion of that's beyond my capability, or much more time in that than I want to put in that. All right, and that be a reasonable solution. That be reasonable. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to spend the rest of my life or the rest of whatever just concentrating on that only. There is a thing of considering plans and then reconsidering. But this has to do with someone who just isn't going to do anything more than just talk about it. Nothing really gets done. Now we go to verse 24. The crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. We go back up to verse 18. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. So prudent and wise, those are just two different words leading to the same person. The crown of the wise is their riches. Well, it's the wisdom. It's the knowledge. That's their riches. And this is not speaking about someone who is rich as being someone who's necessarily wise. Now, Abraham was wealthy. Was he wise? Sure he had wisdom. Yeah, indeed. But this is not as is labeled, the health and wealth gospel. That if you do all these things, there's going to be nothing but health. You're going to be healthy. You're going to be wealthy. And that's going to be the blessings from the Lord. That's what's going to be there. Well, that's never been promised at all. Just look at Christ. Was there anyone more righteous than He is? No. And yet, how was He financially? And he's dead at 33. After being scourged, after being beaten. Or where's the health and wealth in that? Well, it happens to be concerning his wisdom. It happens to be concerning spiritual life. That's what it is. And we can look at the same thing concerning Stephen and James and John the Baptist, that we need to, and we'll just take a little bit of time in this, we need to remember that when it comes to Proverbs, first off, consider the whole proverb. What is being stated. Consider it all. Because there could be something that comes at as the second part of the proverb that's going to help you understand the first part. But also, don't take just one proverb and think that's everything I need to know about this one subject. Take it then as to what else is being taught in the rest of Proverbs on that subject. It's all going to be directed together by other Proverbs, but also by the Bible itself. The rest of the Bible is also going to be part of that. That's why just a few minutes ago I mentioned that of Jesus and speaking there in Matthew 7, beginning of verse 15. Now, the crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. Here is their crown. It is foolishness. And what is folly? Well, it's something that's absolutely empty. It can be just a great void. And that might be the best thing that could be said about it. It can also be highly destructive. It can do that, of destroy the one who is the fool and those around the fool, but it can be very, very wasteful. Actually, it is wasteful. But it can be very destructive. The foolishness of fools is folly, and they revel in it. They love it. That's what they want. Now, we come to verse 25. A true witness delivers souls, but a deceitful witness speaks lies. So we can go to verse 5 in this, just going back to there. A faithful witness does not lie, but a false witness will utter lies. Okay, that's kind of a statement of obvious fact. A faithful witness, well, being a faithful witness means you don't lie. A false witness is going to utter lies. Okay, that's by definition. It's kind of obvious. But a true witness delivers souls. A deceitful witness speaks lies. Now, this is what I mean by putting not just these two together from two different chapters, but this one proverb all together. A true witness delivers souls, but a deceitful witness speaks lies. Well, does that mean a deceitful witness destroys souls? Yeah, it does. It does mean that. That's exactly what it does. Lives are harmed and justice is corrupted by false witnesses. False witnesses. The truth is not being shown, and the innocent are made guilty, and the guilty are seen as innocent. That comes from the lies of a deceitful witness, and souls are not delivered, and justice is not done. Now, at the beginning of this book, we have Proverbs speaking of, Solomon speaking of the things that you can gain from this particular book, and there's some big, very big things that it promises in all of this. In verse 3, to receive instruction of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. You cannot have any of these things without wisdom. A fool will not be interested in this at all. Nothing. Giving out the words sound great, but their form of justice is not just at all. Their form of equity is not equitable at all. Whatsoever. Their judgment is flawed judgment. It is corrupted judgment. It is more bad fruit from a very bad tree. That's what you get in this. So, how are lives harmed in this? Well, 1 Kings 21:13, we have Naboth. Naboth, who is an innocent man. Two scoundrels have been hired to say, or at least they've been told that they have been assigned to start saying things against Naboth. And Naboth is taken out and he's immediately killed. And all this was by design from the queen. It was Jezebel who designed this because of what Ahab wanted. And so these two scoundrels, they just say anything, and it's not the truth whatsoever. Concerning Paul in Acts 24, verses 5 and 6, Tertullus says some things, and Tertullus is like the best speaker that the Sanhedrin court could probably have gotten. Tertullus, in talking to Felix, Tertullus says some things that Paul did that are not true. Paul had been in the temple, but he wasn't there to do anything against it. He wasn't doing anything that would somehow taint it, that would harm it whatsoever. Let's just go over there. So we just go to Acts chapter 22 and verse 5. I'm sorry, 24. Sorry, Acts 24, verse 5. For we have found this man a plague. All right, that's an opinion. A creator of dissension among the Jews throughout the world. And a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarenes. Now that is actually false. That's entirely false. He is not a ringleader of anything. He is not it at all. So the first two are the first one would be he's a plague. That's an opinion, and you don't put somebody in prison because somebody thinks they're a plague. Creator of dissension among the Jews throughout the world. Well, what does this have to do with what occurred in Jerusalem? All right, verse 6, he even tried to profane the temple. Now, he didn't. That is false. That's a false witness. And there is no trying to get to the truth, and not with them anyway. Sanhedrin court wasn't out to find the truth because they didn't want the truth at all. When Paul tried to defend himself in chapter 23, he got hit in the mouth for he hadn't even begun a defense. He just kind of introduces himself, and they want him quiet right then and there and are willing to do violence to do it. So here is a deceitful witness speaks lies, and we can also say a deceitful witness will destroy souls. It will destroy these lives of others, lives of the innocent. That's what it's going to do. Now, we come to verse 26. So Proverbs 14:26 and 26 and 27 go together. In the fear of the Lord there is strong confidence, and his children will have a place of refuge. All right, the fear of the Lord. We see where the fear of the Lord is beginning of knowledge. That's in chapter 1, verse 7. He who fears the commandment will be rewarded. That's 13:13. Here we have the fear of the Lord. In the fear of the Lord, there is strong confidence. There is surety, there's certainty, there is hope. There is a solid hope that is there. And one can be absolutely sure about it. When Jesus speaks in the Sermon on the Mount, everyone is astonished at the way that he spoke. He doesn't teach like any of the rabbis. What he speaks of has certainty to it and authority to it. And we can always count on God to tell us the truth and to get it right. Whatever the subject is, He's not going to tell us a lie for whatever motive. Even if we think the motive was good, He's not going to tell us a lie. He's not going to lie to us. And here is this fear of the Lord is strong confidence. It's the beginning of knowledge. It will be rewarded. And here is this, as Jesus describes also at the end of the Sermon on the Mount. Those who hear these sayings of mine and do them, I will liken to a wise builder who built his house on the rock. All right, it doesn't fail. It is resting secure because that rock is secure. The rock's not going to move. And we can found our life right on top of that, and we can have strong confidence in that. Strong confidence that that rock's not going to move, that here is where I find not any kind of hazy knowledge, not any kind of murky business, not any kind of ambiguity. It's all certain and clear. If you've ever tried to read or have completely read the Quran, you will notice it isn't exactly clear. I have described it as walking into a room and there's a man on the telephone talking to someone. You're getting half the conversation. You don't know who they're talking to. You don't know what the subject is about. You don't know if they're talking about you, or you don't know anything. You're just getting a portion of the conversation, and to think that this is a continuation of the Bible, which it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be Old Testament, New Testament, Quran. To think that this is a continuation of the words of God is ludicrous because it completely breaks the pattern. Completely. He goes from certainty to now obscure, to now we don't know what he's even talking about. Whereas Old Testament, New Testament will stand on their own, they are completely independent. That is, they do not need anybody's help. They don't need anybody's help. They stand on their own and will explain everything that needs to be explained to us. Explain it all. Introduce it properly. Show us how, by way of example, how it should be done. Show us by way of example how it can be abused. What happens to the one who obeys? What happens to the one who disobeys? And then we get all kinds of other type of teaching concerning that same subject. It may come by way of poetry, by way of proverb, by way of parable, metaphorical language, apocalyptic language. It could come in any of those forms by way of all kinds of literary devices showing and clarifying what we need to know. The Bible does that. And we can have strong confidence that let God be true and every man a liar. All right? When it comes between God saying one thing and your expert saying another, take God's words. Take Him every time. Because there is confidence. All right? The fear of the Lord is their strong confidence. And His children will have a place of refuge. In 13:13, he who fears the command of will be rewarded. We mentioned that. But I want us now to look at verse 32 because this also is connected to it. The wicked is banished in his wickedness, but the righteous has refuge in his death. So here, his children will have a place of refuge even in death. Even in death, his children will have a place of refuge. And we'll get to verse 32 in just a second, but let's look at 27. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life to turn one away from the snares of death. All right? The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life. And we already have seen the wisdom of God giving life, and it's being described as one who gives life. One who holds that wisdom is also one who gives life because they are giving that same wisdom. They're giving that same wisdom. And someone who's going to speak the truth, as we have already seen up here, a true witness delivers souls. That's someone who's going to be like a fountain of life because they're going to show what the truth is. That's a faithful witness. What is the truth? Regardless of how you feel about any of this, just tell us what the truth is so that justice can be done. And the innocent are shown to be innocent. But the fear of the Lord is a fountain of life to turn away from the snares of death. All right, to turn one away from the snares of death. This goes to like James 1 and verse 15. Sin, when it is full grown, what does it bring forth? Death. Yeah, it brings forth death. Sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. And so this says to turn one away from the snares of death. So this would turn one away from sin and from the snares that are put down everywhere. Snares that are put down by Satan. I was talking to the kids a couple of Sundays ago, and I asked them if they knew what a bear trap looked like. They did. They knew what a bear trap looked like. And so I said, if you're walking through the woods and you saw that, would you recognize it? And they said, yeah, we'd recognize it. Suppose there was food in it. Would you reach for the food? Well, you're dealing with adolescents And so you have to kind of get through the nonsensical stuff. But the answer is you would be dumb if you did. All right? You'd be as dumb as the bear. The bear cannot know what that trap, it doesn't even know it's a trap. He doesn't know what it is. All he sees is the food. That's all he sees is the bait, and has no idea that it is bait. It's just food. That's all it is. But you're kind of smarter than that. You might want to stay away from that trap. All right, you might want to. And there are other things that, like snares for rabbits, and which not going to be that harmful to you, but you would know that's for a rabbit. and it's there for something that has no idea what that thing is for. No idea. Well, that is a fool when it comes to the ways of sin and the traps, the snares that Satan has put out. You are just witless. You are clueless and going right into it like a bear or like a rabbit who has no idea they're about to get trapped and lose your life. You're about to get trapped. But someone who has the fear of the Lord, you've got that fountain of life. It's described here as this fountain of life. It's also described as that strong confidence, and turns one away from the snares of death. You can see it. You can recognize it. You can see, oh, this is no good. This is really no good, and walk away. And he's already given certain examples of what potentially this son could come across, because it's in every generation. It's in every society. You're going to see it. Wicked men are going to do wicked things. And sometimes they're going to join up together to do a greater wickedness. You stay away from that. You stay away from that. And there are other things also mentioned as well. That of the seductress, that of perverted people. You stay away from them. Now, verse 28. In a multitude of people is a king's honor, but in the lack of people is the downfall of a prince. So this has got to be. Well, it is showing that a kingdom with a greater population has a greater potential for power, greater potential for numerous things. For prosperity, and able to protect itself, and able to protect its own people. And a multitude of people is a king's honor, but the lack of people is the downfall of a prince. A small kingdom is just that. It can very much be overrun by a powerful country. Very much can. And of course, you get down to where you don't really have kings. You get down to where it's just tribes and tribal leaders. But this is just a statement of fact, and that really what you'd want as someone ruling is having that multitude of people, and you have at certain times. Soviet Union did it under Stalin. You had Germany doing it under Hitler, but predating them, you had other countries that would do it, of where they would have perceived enemies or political enemies or enemies that they may not be enemies at all, but they don't want them around, therefore they kill them off. And there is this thing known as a brain drain. You've probably heard it before, I don't know. But it's basically where you're getting rid of people who have some skills, and now you don't have those people around anymore. People who may have been able to have, and that's an irony with Adolf Hitler. The very ones who could have helped him develop, and it's good, I think it's providential. The very ones that could have helped him develop a nuclear weapon, of which they were looking into that, he already ran them out or he killed them. All right? And we actually got the benefit of that. That's what you get when you do things like that. Now, let's go to verse 29. He who is slow to wrath has great understanding, but he who is impulsive exalts folly. So, all right, he's slow to wrath. Here is someone, and we've talked about this person before because we have several in here, and it's to help us. From chapter 15, 1 and 2, chapter 19, verse 11. We've got quite a number here, even going to places like James 1 and verse 19 and 1 Peter 4, 8. But he who is slow to wrath has great understanding. He considers his steps. He's not going to just leap into being angry, but is not volatile, is not unstable. It's someone who is not just easily flying into a rage. Anybody can fly into a rage. Anybody. It doesn't take some great person to fly in a rage. It doesn't at all. It takes a greater person to maintain themselves, that they consider the outcome of their next word. They consider the outcome of their next motion, their next action. They consider these things. And the one who's slow to wrath has a greater understanding. An understanding of the situation, an understanding of the ramifications and the consequences that can come around. But he who is impulsive exalts folly. Well, that means to praise folly, glories or glorifies folly. Of that impulsivity, being impulsive is better than being deliberate. Better than taking a moment to think about what you're going to do and not just have a knee-jerk reaction, not have just a sudden animal-like response of going to bite the person next to you. All right, that's what animals do. But someone who has great understanding is going to be slow to wrath, not just a mindless reaction, not just unreasoned kind of response, and not be so impulsive. And really think for a moment and understand, like a conversation I had once with a man. He wouldn't even let me finish a sentence. He assumed, he's finishing my sentence in his head. He assumes I'm saying one thing. And he immediately just flies off the handle. Immediately flies off the handle. And I didn't get a chance to tell him what I actually was saying. You're reacting to something I didn't say. And I didn't say it, one, because you didn't let me. And number two, that's not where I was heading anywhere. I wasn't heading there at all. But you don't know that, because this guy has suddenly gone into a rage and starts browbeating me for something I didn't say, nor did I believe. And I found it impossible to correct him because he wouldn't let me speak. And so you just roll with it. Okay, whatever. You're going to find out. Now, I don't care if you find out or not now. I don't care if you find out what I said, what I meant to say. I don't care. I don't care anymore. You're impossible to talk to. And, where we go? Where we go? Who can talk to you? It's like with Nabal. Who can talk to Nabal? Who can tell Nabal anything? Nabal's just going to be what Nabal wants to do at the moment. You can't correct him. You can't give him any kind of advice. And he's going to believe what he believes and is just being that kind of impulsive person. Now, verse 30. A sound heart is life to the body, but envy is rottenness to the bones. And this is what I mean when we take a proverb in its entirety. The first part, then there's the second part. The second part may very well direct us into what the first part's meaning is, to help us in this. So, this is a sound heart is life to the body. All right, well, that sounds like it's basic physiology. It's like, yeah, this is biology, a sound heart. Okay, that's life to the body. That's right. But it's really not talking about that at all. Now, it's true, but that's not what it's talking about, because the second part is suddenly talking about envy and rottenness to the bones. That the heart must be something else, and a sound heart must be something else, and that would be that of a sound mind. Well, what truly is a sound mind? Obviously, one that doesn't have envy, but also one that shows some kind of wisdom, some kind of righteousness, some kind of restraint, something that is governing that person. And that is from the heart or from the mind, and there is life to the body. Because what goes on inside your mind does affect you physically. It does do that. And things that are happening around you and the stress put upon you also can affect you physically. It can do that. But this has to do with the inside, the heart in all this, the mind, the spirit that is within you. And if there is rottenness there, if there is envy in there, it is not good. It's not good at all. And we have this rottenness to the bones. Now, verse 31. He who oppresses the poor reproaches his maker, but he who honors him has mercy on the needy. So, let's look at this. Oppressing the poor, you reproach your maker immediately. And this takes us back to verse 20. The poor man is hated even by his own neighbor, but the rich has many friends. Then verse 21, he who despises his neighbor sins, but he who has mercy on the poor, happy is he. He who oppresses the poor reproaches his maker. Now, James 5 in verse 4 speaks of the cries of the reapers have reached the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. What does that mean? That is that if you have oppressed the poor, if you have not given them what they have earned, if you have somehow done them harm, their cries reach the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. What does that mean? Their ears reach the Lord of hosts. The Lord of hosts. Hosts means armies. And what are his armies? His armies are angels. All right, he has extraordinary power. And you don't, those are scary words, that someone cries out because of injustice that you have done to them. They are poor. You have made their condition even worse by something you did. They cry out, and there is a promise. God hears their cry. There's a promise about that. And someone who oppresses the poor reproaches his maker. You're saying what against our God? You're saying what against your own maker? Well, you are reproaching him. You are dishonoring him. You are certainly not following him. and if you're not following him, you are saying that he is nothing. That's exactly what is being said. That he can be replaced, that he takes you in the wrong direction, therefore he's wrong. Now, we come to the second portion of this. But he who honors him has mercy on the needy. honors who? Now, I'm reading from the New King James, and it does capitalize him, which I think is correct. He who honors him. Who is the him? That would be the Maker. He who honors the Maker, honors your Creator, has mercy on the needy. And of course, in Leviticus 19, 9 and 10, we see where in the Old Testament there were laws concerning the poor and how they were to be treated. We see also in chapter 25, that's Leviticus 25, beginning in verse 35 to go into verse 37, that also speaks of how the poor are to be treated. And we see the example of that being done in the book of Ruth. We see two widows who've returned back. Well, Naomi has returned. Ruth has followed her. Two widows in need, and they are poor. They're coming back poor. And you see someone like Boaz, and one would think it couldn't just be Boaz doing this, but Boaz was actually fulfilling what Leviticus said was to be done. And it was to help the poor. And I might add that it wasn't just handouts, that the poor were expected, now I realize someone may be incapable. Someone lame, a leper, something like that would be incapable. But the capable, they are to be doing the work as well. That here is parts of the fields, the corners of the fields that aren't gleaned, they go to the poor. But the poor have to go do it. And that's exactly what Ruth was doing. That's exactly what Ruth was doing. She was going there as described. And it was there for her. You allow that to go. If you are needy and there it is, and you let that go, it's on you. It's not on the owner for not following the laws. It's on you that you didn't get it. It was there for you, but laziness or whatever, you just didn't do it. So you want to honor God, you have mercy on the needy. You oppress the needy, oppress the poor, you reproach your Maker. Verse 32, the wicked is banished in his wickedness, but the righteous has refuge in his death. And we will finish up on this one, but this is where we put it together. We put these two phrases together. The wicked is banished in his wickedness. Well, that word banished is cast down, and ultimately this is hell, which I think is precisely what this is talking about, because it says this, but the righteous has a refuge a refuge in his death. There is refuge in death. This world is not much of a refuge. This world is a place with a lot of hardships, with a lot of wickedness, with a lot of oppression, with a lot of other things. And if there was no refuge after this life, what would be the point? What would be the reward in it? What would be that of going from this place with all its trouble to, now here's your reward, another place with as much trouble or more? All right, there's no reward in that. That this is a refuge, and it is for the righteous. And this proverb does concern itself with judgment after death. That's precisely what this is about. And we'll need to stop there. Thank everyone for being with us. And hopefully next week we can continue. Thank you.